The courtroom buzzed that Thursday morning, and I could sense Linda Carver's smug confidence from across the aisle. She sat in her tailored blazer, lips pressed in that familiar sanctimonious smirk, murmuring to her attorney as if victory was already hers. The HOA president was poised to school the defiant ranch owner, or so she thought. Then Judge Callahan banged the gavel, calling the case to order, and asked if I had counsel. I rose slowly, smoothing my tie with calm precision. Your Honor, I'll be representing myself. Linda's lawyer, a young guy named Ethan Palmer, actually snickered. Poor kid had no clue what was coming. Very well, the judge said. State your qualifications for the record. I cleared my throat. Nathan Lee, retired attorney, 32 years with Lee and Partners, specializing in property law and civil disputes. Member of the state bar since 1989. Palmer's smirk evaporated. Linda's jaw dropped slightly before she recomposed herself. Life at Sunset Valley Ranch was meant to be tranquil after years of legal battles and corporate maneuvering. I bought the 120-acre property for its Seclusiano neighbors for miles, no HOA nonsense, just me, my cattle, and occasional visits from my grandkids. The land had belonged to the Whitaker family for 3 generations before I purchased it, and old Sam Whitaker made one thing crystal: this property was never tied to any homeowners association. The closest subdivision, Pinewood Estates, sat 3 miles away, separated by public land and my boundary. For the first year, it was paradise. Then Linda Carver became HOA president. My first run-in with her happened on a cool September morning. I was mending a fence when a silver BMW SUV rolled up to my gate. Out stepped a woman in her late 40s, auburn hair impeccably styled, clutching a tablet like a badge of authority. Excuse me, she called in a tone that demanded compliance. We need to discuss community trail access. I set down my pliers and approached, keeping the gate between us. Can I help you? I'm Linda Carver, president of Pinewood Estates HOA, she declared, as if I should bow. We're creating a community trail network and need an easement through your property to link to the county paths. I nearly chuckled. Ma'am, this is private land. It's not part of your HOA. Her smile tightened. That's what we're here to address. The community has decided interconnected trails will boost property values and encourage wellness. Sounds great for your neighborhood, I said evenly, but this ranch isn't in Pinewood Estates. Never was. She tapped her tablet sharply. Mr. Lee, you don't seem to grasp how this works. When the community prioritizes the greater good, one person can't just obstruct progress. That's when I knew she'd be trouble. Ma'am, I understand just fine. The answer's no. Have a good day. I turned back to my fence, hearing her scoff and her car door slam. Over the next 8 months, Linda's crusade went from irritating to unlawful. First came letters on Pinewood Estates letterhead, summoning me to board meetings I had no duty to attend. Then baseless county complaints about non-existent violations, each forcing me to spend hours with inspectors who left rolling their eyes. She organized community hikes where groups lingered at my property line, snapping photos like I was a sideshow. The breaking point came in May. I found my back gate's padlock snipped, tire tracks cutting across my land, and trail markers nailed into my trees. I spent a day removing them and installed security cameras. The footage was gold at 1 a.m. The following Monday, there was Linda with bolt cutters, sneaking onto my property with 2 HOA cronies, planting more markers. I had a steel gate welded with concrete posts the next day and sent a cease and desist letter through a colleague. That's when Linda doubled down. She sued me. The lawsuit landed on a Wednesday, delivered by a sheepish process server. Linda Carver and Pinewood Estates HOA were suing me for willful obstruction of community assets, interference with implied easements, and me favorite, causing a public disturbance. She demanded immediate trail access, $60,000 in damages, and legal fees. Her complaint was a mess of legal buzzwords, claiming historical easements and suggesting my land was once part of a parcel with public access commitments, all fiction. But it required a response. That's when I decided to reactivate my bar license. No sense hiring someone for a fight I could win myself. I filed a response, denying her claims and countersuing for trespass, harassment, and slander. Then I prepped for what I knew would be a lively court date. Linda had no idea she'd just challenged someone who'd spent decades dismantling flimsier cases than hers. The preliminary hearing was that Thursday I mentioned. Linda swept in with a posse: her lawyer, 3 HOA board members, and a woman scribbling for their newsletter. She even sported a tiny HOA president badge, as if it held legal clout. Judge Callahan, a sharp veteran I'd faced in court years ago, didn't recognize me at first. But when I stated my credentials, her eyes flickered with recognition. "Mr. Lee," she said with a nod. "Good to see you back in my courtroom." Palmer rose for his opening, all theatrics, portraying me as a grumpy hermit blocking families from nature. He claimed the trails were decades old, that my land was stifling the community, and Linda was just serving her residents. When my turn came, I kept it tight. "Your Honor, I have the original deed from 1948, the survey from my 2020 purchase, and affidavits from the prior 3 owners covering 70 years. No easement has ever existed here. This property has never been part of any HOA, and there's never been public access." I laid each document on the table as Palmer's confidence waned. "Moreover," I added, opening a folder, "I have security footage of MS. Carver trespassing on my property 7 times, including cutting locks and planting unauthorized markers." I handed the judge printed stills. "I also have 19 harassing letters from MS. Carver, records of 11 false county complaints, and evidence of a deliberate effort to harm my reputation." Judge Callahan's brows lifted as she scanned the photos. "MS. Carver, is this you in these images?" Linda's face shifted from smug to flushed to ashen. "That's out of context," she stammered. "The community needed those trails." "So you admit to trespassing on Mr. Lee's property?" the judge pressed. Palmer leapt up. "Your Honor, my client believed in good faith that easements existed." I almost pitied him. "Your Honor," I said, "I'd like to submit Exhibit to recorded call between MS. Carver and a board member where she says, quote, 'I don't care if he owns it. We'll make his life miserable until he caves.'" The courtroom went quiet, save for Linda's gasp. "That was private," she yelped. "Recorded on my property," I replied coolly, where her voice carried during one of her staged gatherings. "Single-party consent state, Your Honor, fully legal." Palmer tried to rally, blabbing about community good, but the damage was done. Judge Callahan cut in. "Counselor, does your client have any evidence of an easement? Any documentation at all?" Palmer fumbled his papers. "We're researching historical records, Your Honor." "So, no," the judge said flatly. "Mr. Lee, do you wish to pursue your counterclaims?" "I do, Your Honor. I seek damages for trespass, legal fees, and a permanent restraining order barring MS. Carver and HOA representatives from my property." Linda shot to her feet. "You can't do this. I'm the HOA president. I have authority." Judge Callahan's gavel cracked. "MS. Carver, sit down and stay quiet, or I'll hold you in contempt." She turned to me. "Mr. Lee, your evidence is compelling. I'm inclined to grant summary judgment in your favor." Palmer made a last-ditch plea. "Your Honor, we request a continuance to gather evidence." "Denied," the judge said sharply. "I've seen plenty." Over the next 25 minutes, Judge Callahan shredded Linda's claims and upheld mine. The ruling was brutal for her. All her claims were dismissed with prejudice, meaning no refiling. My countersuit was granted in full $18,000 for trespass damages, $6,000 for legal fees. I lowballed it, and a permanent restraining order keeping Linda and her HOA 500 feet from my ranch. But the judge wasn't finished. "MS. Carver," she said icily, "your conduct is egregious. You've misused your position, harassed a lawful property owner, and wasted this court's time with baseless litigation." To Palmer, "Counselor, I suggest you review the State Bar's due diligence rules before filing again. Consider this a warning." Then the kicker. "I'm referring this case to the district attorney for possible criminal trespass charges and sending this ruling to the Pinewood Estates HOA board, strongly recommending they reassess their leadership." Linda's face collapsed. "But I was helping the community," she sobbed. "No, MS. Carver," the judge snapped, "you were trying to strong-arm someone into surrendering their rights. There's a difference." Outside, Linda was swarmed by furious board members muttering about emergency votes. Palmer slipped away without a word. For days later, a certified letter arrived from Pinewood Estates HOA. Linda was ousted unanimously and barred from future board roles. The criminal trespass case moved forward, and 3 months later, she pleaded guilty to misdemeanor trespass, 18 months probation, and 600 hours of non-HOA community service. The cherry on top came 7 months later. A state law school asked me to keynote their property law seminar. My topic? When HOAs overreach, a case study in boundary disputes. I used our case, complete with footage and transcripts. The lecture went viral on legal education platforms. Linda's legacy wasn't her trail network, but a warning tale for law students about abusing power and misjudging opponents. Word through legal circles was Linda relocated 2 states away, her Pinewood Estates home sold at a loss. The new HOA board sent me an apology letter and a cheese platter. Linda's $24,000 check cleared, and I donated it to a legal aid group fighting HOA overreach. They named their meeting room the Carver Caution Sweet Irony at its finest. Last I heard, Linda was a file clerk at a small realty firm, her HOA ambitions buried under a restraining order, a criminal record, and crippling legal debt. Drop a comment, ever tangle with an HOA tyrant like this? Share your story. I'm reading everyone.